Hey, and welcome back to Adventure Planes. My name is Guddeful, and in this series we are building a small story park in Planet Coaster. And as you can see right now, I'm getting into the next episode with more of the wonderful fence building, but it will be quite short right now. I don't want to repeat the last episode where I just did fencing for like a century. So we're just finishing up this small area in front of the Vekoma looping coaster here, and then we'll move on to the next thing. I'm not quite sure what the next thing actually is, to be honest. My recording is above the footage. Let me check. Okay, yeah. We are going to start building the station for the GCI, as you can see right now. Which I procrastinated on for a long time, and I thought, well, maybe I should get onto it. I start building it, it gets kind of far along, but I don't think I'm finished with it. For example, I don't do anything with the path for the entrance path or the exit path, and it's lacking a little bit of detail, I think. I have to think about what I want to do with it in the future. But it's a good start, and it doesn't look this plain anymore. Now there is something. Just adding a few wooden beams and metal roof. So just this very cheap, rustic style that I'm building here in the front of the park. My idea is that the park wasn't that heavily themed in its early stages in existence, and later on there will be added more and more themed areas. So the further we get into the park, the more themed it will be. So it's kind of like the opposite of what you normally see, that parks start out with a really high budget with themed areas for their oldest section of the park, and then get financial issues. This one is somewhat the other way around. Everything went into the main street for the theming, then they built the attractions to get the guests in, but they were very generic. Not very hard theming in there, and after that, when the cash flow started, the park became really popular in its region, and the people came and paid the money, and so the park was able to build those heavily themed areas that come in the next stage of the park. We will actually start building one of those themed areas in this episode, and this will be the Kopenhagen Pier. It's a section directly at the side of the lake, where one of the I don't know if pier is the right English word. Where the ship transportation ride that will be in the park, sadly not functional because of Planet Coaster not having a functional water ride thingy. There's one of the stations for this water transport ride. It will be the Mississippi steamboat that is swimming over the lake. And the other station will be in the Louisiana area. Not Louisiana. New Orleans. Wow. Why I am keeping doing that, I don't know, and that wasn't correct English. But anyways, we start the Copenhagen area in this build, and we will build the first family coaster of the park. It's a very gentle ride. We use the free swing coaster with the albatross carts, but I interpret them, I don't know how I should pronounce that word. I take them as Pelikan carts for this coaster, because that will be the name of the coaster, and I don't think I have to be too strict with how the car looks and then name it Albatross, because that's not what I wanted to do. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about what is happening here in the time-lapse. Right now we are building the flat ride. I think it's called the Stizzler or something like that, and we are building a cover-up. I kind of dodged that topic for the few flat rides I had in the park, except for the carousel, of course. But this one worked out quite well. I didn't have any problems with the shape of this, and all went quite smooth. So I think maybe I will do this for either only one of the other 2 flat rides we have where the looping coaster stands, or maybe for both of them, so they look a little bit more like real attractions. Right now it just looks like they're put in there and just exist. There's nothing that looks nice about them. And maybe I will get to that in the future. But here you can see how nice it works out. Now you can see me do again this lazy fence thing, because I don't want to build a round fence around the flat ride. Now we're getting a little bit more in the foliage around the lake area. Just more of the same, I guess. The foliage of the whole park will be quite similar. This is because a lot of the things that grew around the lake were left as they were before the park was built. That's why it all looks like it does. Some things are how do I say that? Are worked on by the gardeners of the park, so they look a little bit more man-made. If you didn't already have seen this video, check out the Bro Basics number 2 by Podcoaster, where Mike explains the different types of nature you can put in. And I guess that would be called nature in his terms, what I build around the lake. Now you can see me start building the Kopenhagen Pier and struggle a little bit with the terrain here. I don't know why it did that, but you could see that one side, the path had this little gap if I built the path from left to right. But as I built it from right to left, the gap disappeared, and I have no idea why that happened. So if maybe someone of you can tell me why that happened, that would be nice, so I could avoid it in the future. Here you could see me put in the toilet building I built in the last episode into another place, so reusing the work I have already done to speed it up a little bit. And I think that's something the park in reality would do too, so they don't have to put extra money in new designs or new materials. Just make everything look similar, so it's the cheapest way as possible, so you can channel all your budget into the coasters and themed areas, dark rides and whatever is to come. Here you can see me build the walls for the pier, and I try to build a functional version of the station for the boat that transports you over the sea, over the lake, but that doesn't work out quite well because it would be too high. I realize that now, I think, so I just put it down a little bit, which, by the way, ends up being the perfect height for the steamboat. And yeah, now we add just some stairs and a little plan for when the boat will come, the arrival and departure screens will be there, so you can look if you're there. Oh, when is the next boat coming? I see in 10 minutes, so let's wait 10 minutes. Maybe we can eat something and then go over to New Orleans. Yes, I said it right. Just adding a little anchor here for a little bit more detail. I think there's more to come. A few barrels, for example, I will add, but right now that's all of the detail I'm adding to this area. I have to say I had quite a lot problems this week with inspiration to come up with new things to build and what to do, and I only recorded this whole episode yesterday in small parts. So I played for like an hour and built the fences and the flat ride cover up. Then I stopped and later came back and built this, and so on and so on. This was kind of the time where I really got into it and got into the flow of building, because I looked up the Copenhagen Promenade on Google and looked at some pictures to get the best reference, so I could build something that would look like the Copenhagen Promenade and the Kopenhagen Pier. And I'm quite happy how it turned out. It's not very detailed as it is right now, or as it will end up to be, but it's a good start. I'll see if I add something. Maybe I'll leave it like that, because sometimes I feel like detail always is so forced. Like, okay, this building is not detailed enough. What could I add? And then you end up putting random things on the building that wouldn't be there in reality, but you have to because you need more detail. And that's something I want to get away from, kind of. And maybe I am at the end with these facades for the Kopenhagen Pier. So now you can see me building the monorail station in the back. So this is the second place where the monorail will stop, and you can get onto it to let yourself be driven through the whole park. This also is the possibility to get off the monorail station and drive with a boat, for example, if you want to get faster to New Orleans and not wait for the next stop if a boat is coming in the future. I think that won't really work out in a real theme park, but I like the idea that you have the possibility to swap transportation kinds. Don't know if that is correct. Maybe it is. Here we built the second building of the facade of the Kopenhagen Pier. This one will be the entrance to the monorail. The pathwork I will do in a short time is really, really ugly. Please ignore that. I thought I had to build it that way and ignore the interior of the building because I didn't have enough space to build it in. So I just made it kind of fast and ugly. But after that, I realized it probably is possible to get it in there looking nice and maybe working something out with the interior. Yeah, here's the third and last building for right now for the Kopenhagen Pier. Nothing special either. I don't think this one has a function either. There is no shop in it, just a facade, so it doesn't look empty. A few windows. This is something I really struggled with. Some of these stucco windows, which are of the same kind, are weirdly colorable, are not the same with color, and I'm not quite sure why that is and if there is any good reason for it to be like that, but yeah, so I had to use other windows in the end. Yeah, now here you can see me. I don't know if I want to keep it that way. That is what I mean. That looks for me like random detail to make it look better. I feel like it looks better because I've put those cranes and hooks on there, but why should they be there? There is nothing they can interact with in top of this building. So I don't know if I will keep them there or if I come up with something better. Now you can see the, I think, most medical building, at least that's how I feel about it. It's the lighthouse. I think the best way to describe it is I ended up being happier than I thought I would end up when I started building this, and I ended up being less happy with it than I would like to. That's because I don't like the shape and how it is placed randomly in the environment, but I wanted some kind of weenie in front of the Copenhagen area so you could see it from afar and know, okay, that's where the Scandinavian area is, that's where I can find this and that. And I thought a lighthouse at this pier area would fit really well. But it just looks so plain. Maybe this is, again, something where I either have to put in random detail or just let it be simple. But yeah, I don't think it is ugly. I think I will keep it. Maybe I will improve it, but I will not delete it and replace it with something different. I think. Maybe that will happen too, I don't know. Now adding a little bit of foliage so it doesn't look so plain. Again, the same stuff around the lake, like always. Yeah, and maybe now we can talk a little bit about what I plan to do with this whole Scandinavian Copenhagen area, because in a short while you will see me build the Freeflycoaster, the Freeflycoaster to the right from the lighthouse. Now we are starting, and this will be the village area of the Scandinavian area, where the theme that I started in the main street will be used a little bit more, because all of that was what is happening inside of the town area of Copenhagen doesn't really look like the village buildings I had in the main street, and I wanted the main street to be kind of like a foreshadowing of what is going to happen inside of the park. So this will be the village area, maybe with a playground next to it where the children can play, and have the family coaster where they can ride it. So you have all this family stuff focused on one point in front of the area, so you don't have to walk too far, because children tend to be not that patient, and it's better for them to have what they want to ride in the park in the front, or near the front. It's not really in the front, you have to walk a little bit, but anyways, and that is what's going to happen there. And then I'm thinking of building a little town area behind the facade of the Kopenhagen Pier, in which will be a log flume. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do that, but I have this idea of a log flume that starts in the sewers of Copenhagen, goes out, runs a little bit through nature behind Copenhagen and next to it and so on, and then with the last high drop it gets back into Copenhagen, into the sewers. I have to see how that works out and how I will build it, because I really like the sideline interaction with log flumes, and I really like how you can on most log flumes see the final drop from the path, so you get excited before you even get onto it. And if I drop the final drop into the sewers of Copenhagen, even if it's just by a little bit, we don't want to get too crazy with the final drop, then you won't see it. You won't see how the people are getting wet and how it impacts in the last bit of water. But maybe there will be some kind of canal where it drops in and then it drives to the right into the sewers or something like that. I don't know right now. I will figure that out if we are this far into the build. Now I can see the station building for the swing coaster. I'm quite happy how it turned out, and it's very, very simple. It just has this village look to it. Again, some wooden beams. I think this is what I do for most buildings if I have no specific theme in mind. I just use 2 or 3 kinds of walls and just add all those wooden beams as fortification for the walls, and add a little bit more lighting, probably some other details, and you're good to go to have a fine looking building. And it doesn't have to be crazy or something like that. You don't have to rediscover the wheel, we say in German. I don't know if that's an English saying too, but sometimes it's better to just let things be simple and don't overdo it. Adding a little bit more wooden structure inside of the station. And something I really struggled with this coaster is the transfer track. And as you can see in the end of the building of the coaster, I didn't finish the transfer track how it should be, because the collision and the positioning of the transfer track is really hard to get in. I have to think about that, where I really want to put it. But I already know that it will be behind or inside of one of those village buildings that I will add in the next episode. Yeah, and now back to the Copenhagen talk I had earlier, because I want to add another coaster to this area. This is just a small, cheap kiddie ride they put in somewhere in the future of the park. I imagine it is quite new, because it's kind of a modern ride. The technology is not that typical for old rides, so maybe it's a replacement for an old kiddie ride that was just too old, and instead of refurbish it, they just build a new one like this one. And what I want to do is add a big thrilling coaster inside the Scandinavian area. At first I thought of building the flying coaster. I think I talked earlier about that I wanted to build a flying coaster that interacts with a river raft. I still want to do that, but probably I will do this now in the Alpine area. And what I will add here is the single rail coaster, and there's a very special reason for this. First, I think it really would fit the theme, if we build this and theme it around some kind of dragon thing, so some kind of Viking mythology coaster theming. And I was inspired to do this because Six Flags Texas, I don't know which one of the Texas Six Flags, or maybe it's only one and it was renamed, has just announced that they will build the very first single rail coaster in the world. They are prototypes by RMC, but not official in the park, and they will have their Wonder Woman single rail coaster. And we have seen the first layout of how they would be, and it looks really dang amazing, this one. I really want to ride one of those, and this gave me the idea, why not add it to my park? I like the layout, I like how thrilling it is, how smooth they are looking, and until before I saw this layout, I always thought of those single rail coasters as very gentle rides. Not that thrilling, but not boring either. But if you look at this layout, holy moly, that is some kind of intense ride you got there, and I really like that. And so that is what's going to happen as a coaster in the Scandinavian area. And again, this one will be a really new addition to the park, like from this year or even next year if we go into the future, after Six Flags has built their very first single rail coaster. So this one will be really, really heavily themed with a storytelling queue and interaction in the pre-lift area and so on and so on. Something I really have to talk about, though, is the fact that the single rail coaster Six Flags is building is really criticized by the coaster community for its operation. I don't know how I can say this. For how many people it gets through in an hour, because the coaster we have in Planet Coaster has, on one train, if you don't add anything, I think 24 people fitting into it. And the coaster that Six Flags is building has 8 per train, so and is running 3 trains, so it has 24 people for the whole coaster, not for one train. And that is something a lot of people have a big problem with, because the waiting times will be very, very long, and you can't ride this thing very often without sacrificing your whole day in the park. And luckily that is something we don't have to deal with in Planet Coaster, and I will just assume that my park has a more modern version of this coaster type. So I really don't bother that we have more seats on the same type of coaster, and I'm really happy that we do, because it would be kind of sad if so few people could get onto it. And now we are going to build the mascot for this coaster. It's a pelican. It's my very first try in building 3D shaped statues in Planet Coaster, and to be honest, he really looks very derpy, and it's my very personal Derpy McDerp face. That's how I call him. If I get any better in the future with those 3D shaped things, maybe I will rebuild him, but right now I'm kind of happy with Derpy McDerp face. So yeah, now we're really getting into the last parts of the episode. Now adding a little bit foliage in the backside of the family ride, of the family coaster. And behind this, I think there only will be nature and the park border. There won't be any backstage stuff. Maybe there will one road wrap around this so you can get into the backside of this area. And yeah, we are done. I will show you a POV in just a second, and I want to really thank you guys for watching this, and If you liked what you saw, then feel free to leave a thumbs up for me. Subscribe to my channel. Every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. I upload a video. Central European time, by the way. I upload a video of adventure planes, and I have some other series going on. They don't come that often. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I see you on the next one. Bye-bye!